So this is an old video that you're going to watch. I started filming in November 2023 and it took me a year to post. So these are all archived clips. Some of my thoughts might have changed, some might stay the same, but I'd like to post them because it's part of the journey and it's important to me, and they matter to me. And it shows the journey and shows different thoughts I was going through compared to now, I guess. But yeah, enjoy the video. Peace. See, a process I'm going through at the moment is I'm trying to figure out little details about how I'm filming. So one of the things, I don't like the audio. I bought a microphone, I spent a bit of money on this microphone, and I just can't seem to get it a good enough quality that I like, especially for the price that I've paid for it. And the thing about the audio is, I don't like that you can hear the background noise of the car. I don't like that you can, when I go on the motorway, it almost drowns me out, or I have to shout. And then I don't like the tone of my voice when I'm speaking, when I'm shouting. And the thoughts that come in, a bit distracted when I'm shouting, I guess, sometimes as well. There's just these little nitpicky things that I get that I'm not a fan of. And I'm trying to improve it. And the way I'm trying to improve it is I'm trying to test things. So yesterday, I've actually gone on my computer and changed the settings, Googled a few things, changed it. I've got a high, medium, and a low setting now. So I've tried the high, I've tried the medium, now I'm on the low, and I'm trying to see what it's like. And I've adjusted the mic different heights and stuff like that. But I could be nitpicking. I could be. It could be all too much. Who cares? It's not going to stop me filming. As long as it doesn't stop me filming, that's okay. But I was actually having this conversation with someone the other day, and it's like, are you just nitpicky, or do you just have a good standard? And in a sort of egotistical way, are you just better than everyone else? Like, is that what's happening here? Are you just better at something, and that's why you have a higher standard for it? Or is it okay to have a high standard? And we're trying to figure out when is it nitpicking and when is it okay to do? Because I remember I went to the Stephen Bartlett sort of conference, and he talks about it's the little things, it's the little 1% that add up that make you better. And I naturally can't not be nitpicky, or I've been called pedantic in the past. And it is kind of like, yeah, but it is only in certain areas. Like, I'm not saying, I'm to the letter on everything. It's just things that I see and I know that I do. Especially yesterday where I'm teaching this upholstery, and I am being very pedantic and nitpicky. But it is like, well, there is a chance of criticism in your work if I don't tell you to correct this, and I don't get you to correct this. And I know when I learn, I wasn't correcting those things. And when I'm teaching, I want you to be better than me. So in my mind, that's a valuable way of being nitpicky. And there's also a factor of it being hypocritical, because there are some things I do which I know might not be to the best quality and to the best standard, and yet I might teach it. And I think it's the right thing to do, but I think the wrong thing to do is for me to have a low quality or lower quality. But then again, on piecework, you do have to. I can't spend hours on one piece of furniture to make it look perfect by the letter, or you won't earn any money when you're being paid piecework. Not saying I do it to a bad quality and a bad standard. Don't get me wrong. To the general person, they won't notice anything. But to me, I know, and it's one of those things that I've always thought, because my work's been criticised by better upholsterers, and I've always thought, yeah, you didn't learn that. You didn't learn the quality first. You learned. I sort of did. I learned how to do it, and then I learned the speed, and then I'm on quality now. And I do think that's the wrong way around to do it, but I think my circumstance was different, as probably everyone thinks that. But I would love someone to be nitpicky with my work. And this is what I was speaking with the person about. It's they're criticising someone else's work, but it's not criticism necessarily that's bad. Like if that person would do everything that they've been told, their work would be excellent. The work would be great. It would be to the standard that it needs to be at. And it's one of those things where I think, what do you do? Especially as a business owner, do you just sack people who aren't up to the standard that you want to be at? Or do you try and teach, but then if you realise that person doesn't have the personality to get to that standard, is that when you sack them? Or do you just accept that that's the bar and you bring someone else in? I do wonder about that, and I don't know, because it doesn't feel right to sack people over nitpicky things. But then I know Stephen Byler's talking about it's the 1%, and he said a thing that stuck with me. If that person was like everyone else in the company, if everyone else was like that person in the company, would it raise or would it lower the standard of the company? And that's a very important thing to look at. And it is savage to sack people, but I guess sometimes it's got to be done. But I guess that's the hard thing that people don't see about a business owner, is you have got people's lives in your hand, and you've got to be temperamental with it. You've got to be careful with the effects that you're having, because you don't want. For me personally, I would never want to be a bad boss and a savage boss that doesn't care. So it is interesting to think about. And it's interesting to think about the nitpicky stuff, because I think also it depends who you're speaking to, really. Because you could be speaking to someone who isn't ready yet. You look at the time frame of things. If you're working with someone and they've been there 2 months, you're not going to pick up 2 or 3 months, and you're not going to pick up on the nitpicky things. You're not going to be too bothered about that. But after 2 years, they're still being like that. It's like, well, have I made a mistake somewhere in not criticising? Or is this the point that I now do it because they've been here long enough? And especially when it comes to learning a job, when it's something brand new to them, you also don't want to overload them with a lot of information, but you do want to get it right. And I think, like with everything, there's a balance to it. And I think one of the things you've got to focus on is probably the result. If the result is up to the standard that you want it to be, that's fine. It doesn't matter how someone does it, just as long as it gets there, and it's to the standard that you want, and probably that you set yourself as well. I think that's important probably as a boss. You do have to set a standard, because everyone looks to you. You can't have a boss that's slacking off and then telling you need to do this and this, because everyone's just going to be like, well, you don't do it. Just an interesting topic we was talking about with someone, because it's like you also another thing with that is when you're trying to criticize people, or when you're trying to help people, should I say, it's like, how do you come across and say it? I know I come across and say it in a bit of a mean way, a bit of a dickish way, and the same person feels the same. It's like, how do I say this thing when without sort of coming across as a tit, basically, and being like, well, your work's just not good enough because of this little tiny thing. And it's like, there's got to be a way to say it. And I think it probably definitely is a skill of managers to manage people and manage how they speak to certain employees rather than other ones. I think a prime example is Sir Alex Ferguson. They always talk about his man management, and it can be important to manage someone in a specific way and not someone else, to get the best out of them. I think that's what it's all about. I don't think you can set a certain standard and there's a plan step by step. This is what you do in that situation. I think I think that's why it's a skill. I mean, that's why managers get paid a lot of money. I'm talking in business now, well, and I guess even football. But that is why people get paid the bigger money, because it's a skill of managing people, and I imagine it will be very hard, especially to keep everyone happy. But these are sort of just the things I guess I think about in life, because it's a family business, and one day you're probably going to take over a family business. So you've got to prepare yourself for these situations and try and figure out how to manage it and stuff like that. Might not be the same as what everyone else thinks. You might actually be the person where your boss is moaning at you, or your manager's moaning at you, and you're thinking, God, it's such a small thing. But this is sort of the perspective that the other person's got. This is how they're thinking. And we were talking about, I guess it's just your personality type. And, you got different people like me. Like me, I don't want to be wrong. And that's what makes it that way. That's what makes me want to be successful in something, because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to fail. So, I'm running away from that and trying to be successful. And trying to, in anything, in little things. And then you got another factor is, if you care about it. Because I can be nitpicky over certain things that I care about, but let's say my bedroom's complete absolute mess, a tip. But that's not a high quality. That's not to a good standard. But I don't care. I don't necessarily care about that. And then what was the other thing that we said? It was overconfidence, which was an interesting part. It is overconfidence. Some people are overconfident and they think they're better than they are. People probably watch these videos or listen to me speak and they probably think, yeah, he's overconfident. Like, that's not realistic how you're being. You're living in a bit of a fantasy. And I think we've all thought that about some people. But that can lead to mistakes, because you think everything's right. You're like, I'm great, so this is right because I'm great. I'm not wrong. And yeah, it was a nice conclusion that we come to, that there are those sort of three things in people, and that's what creates different results, I guess. But yeah. Anyway, yesterday I filmed a video on whether I was debating on coming in on Friday, and I said to you I'd go to the gym and do it. I'd go to the gym and then decide. Struggled to get to the gym. But once I got there, we was working, and then I got asked, am I coming in? And, you got to say yeah. You got to say yeah. It's being lazy if you don't come in. I mean, think of the reason why I can't be bothered. It's just you're being lazy. It's not like, I'm not knackered. Like, right now I'm not knackered. I got a few extra hours of sleep. I'm coming in at 10, I'm finishing at 2. It's a 4-hour day. It's not even a full day. Do you know what I mean? You can come in and do a bit of work. What else are you gonna do? I'm not got any other plans today. There's a bank holiday next weekend, so it's not like I'm not gonna have it off. I would sort of understand it a bit more if, I'd worked 6 Fridays in a row and maybe I fancy a bit of a break. I think it's different. It's a different feeling and mentality in your head that got me to the conclusion that, yeah, got to come in. But also, I was watching the video back on the way here, and sometimes I do understand, I do take things a bit serious, like, just chill out a bit. Like, it's not that deep. Like, just either come in or don't come in. Like, if you don't come in, it's not the end of the world. But if you do come in, it's also not the end of the world. It's like, you just do the work that you want to do. You chose to do this freely. And at the end of the day, look at your life. It's like, you work a 4-day week unless you come in on that Friday by your own choice. You have choice. You have freedom. You work hard during the week. It's not like you're lazy during the week and you need to catch up. It's, you are aiming high by coming in, and no one else is coming in. So, you're above the standard, I guess. Or not even, that's a bit too serious. Like, don't even look at it as a standard. It's like, well, are you just doing what you want to do? And like, why stress about it? So sometimes I think on that side of things where it's like, with the nitpicky stuff, it's like, at the end of the day, sometimes chill out. Life doesn't always have to be so intense. It doesn't have to be such a high standard all the time. You can let people off sometimes. You can relax a bit. Relax a bit. I think there's more to life than creating perfection. And I think as a society, we'll probably find that out when AI comes into play and possibly makes everything perfect. I mean, look at the comparison between now with the internet and before the internet. It's like you've still got that debate of whether it's good for you or not, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Older generations are more like, well, didn't need it in my day. I could actually drive to here without using a map. And I think there's always a debate, and that's why you also necessarily don't have to have such high standards and perfection in every situation, and you can just relax and chill and just live life. I do get that side of the coin as well. I just think when I'm thinking about things, it's not a conversation when you're talking about that. It's like, well, yeah, just chill out, and that's sort of the end of it. And for me, I think you need a mixture of that in life. You need a balance of being too uptight and then relaxing. And I think that's a skill as well, to manage your. For me, it's managing my mind to not be too serious and not get yourself too down over things that probably don't necessarily matter too much, like coming in on a Friday, working 4 hours. Like, at the end of the day, you're not going to regret doing it, and you're not going to regret not doing it. At the end of the day, you're not going to be on your deathbed thinking, oh, should have worked more Fridays. Should have done more of those 4 hours. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm here, ready to go in. So, peace.